I think if there was one team that won the offseason, it might be the Houston Rockets. Obviously, we've talked about them adding Kevin Durant and what that means, but they followed it up by adding Clint Capella on a 3-year deal worth $21.5 million. Dorian Finney-Smith, very versatile forward, who I think is a championship caliber rotation piece for you, 4-year deal, $53 million. And they were able to retain Steven Adams, Aaron Holiday, Jeff Green, Jabari Smith, Jayshawn Tate, Fred VanVleet. So they basically run it back while adding Kevin Durant, Capela, and Dorian Finney-Smith. What do you make of these moves?
I mean, I love it. Absolutely love it for Houston right now. Sitting here, man, I'm looking at them as I think the second best team in the Western Conference. And like, I know they were a 2 seed this year, but at no point did anybody think that was a legitimate contender. Right? A lot of things fell into place for them to end up a 2 seed, and they only had a 2-game lead over like 3 other teams. So it really wasn't a clear cut 2. I think now they are not only potentially could be a 2 seed, they might be the second best team. They might be the biggest challenge to Oklahoma City. Durant answers the biggest question of all for them. How do you close games? What is your identity and go-to offensive player? Who's the guy that can go score against any layer defense? That's Kevin Durant. But it wasn't enough. Dorian Finney-Smith is a massive acquisition. I mean, he's a role player, but he's one of those guys that we both know what he does defensively and his ability to space the floor and knock down corner threes. This is a major acquisition. The Clint Capella thing surprised me a little bit because I'm sitting there going, okay, you've got Şengün, you re-signed Steven Adams for 3 years. They played 2 bigs quite a bit in the Warriors series, but that's because they had a clear advantage in that series. And Golden State had a hard time with that two big man lineup. And Steven Adams really hurt them on the offensive glass. Yeah, you have a third center. So like they have 3 guys, really none of whom play any other position. They all play center only. So that's going to be interesting. I guess their mentality is, they want to be big. They want to be deep. They've addressed both of those things. And now look, you kind of figure Steven Adams at this point of his career is probably going to miss a large chunk of time at some point in the season. Capella missed time last year. So I guess the third center is just an insurance policy because they plan on playing 2 bigs. It was successful for them last year to finish the year. And now you've got a third one. In case somebody goes down, you still have the ability to play 2 bigs. So I guess that's what that was about. I didn't see that coming. And then a key also, Adam, they retained all those guys. Jabari Smith, they retained, was a big one. They retained Steve Adams. They redid Fred VanVleet's deal to keep him in the fold. So they lose Dillon Brooks. Yeah, okay, the toughness factor, I get it. But Dorian Finney-Smith can guard too, and he's just a much more consistent, shot guy in terms of staying in his lane. Like Dillon Brooks would get out of control a little bit with some of his shot selection, more of a wild card. And then you lose Jalen Green. Okay, he's a very talented player. I don't think anybody thought that was going to be the solution. Like Jalen Green at the end of games, did you trust him? You've gone a different direction now with Durant as the identity of your offense around a great defense and a rising star in Amen Thompson alongside Durant. So I just love everything that Houston has done, including locking up Ime Udoka. So they've had an incredible offseason. It's probably, to me, the best of any team in this league.
I think one of the keys to their roster, because I like their roster on paper, their top end of their roster, I think it's really good. And you talk about they win a championship, you get to the playoffs, what do they have? They have some really good guys. But what I think is going to get them there is their depth. They now have, is that 11? Bring that up again, James. Is that 11 or 12 guys that you could all see playing on any given night? That's 12 guys, 12 deep. And then just look at the size. All right, Fred VanVleet is small. Amen Thompson's enormous for a shooting guard. Kevin Durant, we know how tall he is. Jabari Smith, Şengün. And then off the bench, Dorian Finney-Smith has length. Tari Eason has size. Steven Adams and Clint Capella. They are enormous, athletic, long, and I like the way the pieces fit. So to me, they should be a team that wins a lot of regular season games because of their depth and their defense. And I think they should win a lot of playoff games because they have talented players with Kevin Durant anchoring them in the half court. To me, I agree with you. I think they did everything right this offseason, and they should be considered in tier 1 of the contenders.
Well, I think the other fascinating thing about them for me is the way that Amen Thompson finished the season. If you recall, go back to that series with Golden State. Go back to particularly the Game 7 against Golden State that they lost. Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler were great in that game. The player that looked the most comfortable on the floor for Houston was Amen Thompson. He had a mid-range jumper in that game. He hit a 3 in that game. Did all the other things on the glass and playmaking and guarding people that he always does. He just looked like he belonged so much on that stage. So who knows how quickly he turns into a star. Because right now it's like all about potential with him. And he's clearly a disruptive force defensively. First half of the season, I mean, he might turn into a legitimate bona fide star by like mid-January at the rate he's improving. So if that happens with everything else that they've done, man, Houston Rockets have significantly potentially closed the gap with the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's going to make the Western Conference really, really interesting. You're right. I love all the size. Now, there's one key component we didn't talk about. And I think, look, they drafted him last year for a reason. Yes, is Reed Sheppard ready to be the backup to Fred VanVleet? Because you think about it, this year it was VanVleet and Jalen Green out there together. But then when like VanVleet was off the floor, it was Jalen Green running point. Or if VanVleet was hurt, it was Jalen Green running point. Now it's like Fred VanVleet, and then you're going to go to Jalen Green unless to Reed Sheppard, unless they don't like the way Reed Sheppard looks early in the year. He's clearly going to get an audition at the beginning of the year. If for some reason he doesn't look quite ready, do they go to Amen Thompson more as like the backup point guard? He might be on that level.
Maybe, yeah.
So I'm really interested to see that as well. The guy was the third pick in the draft, I believe. I mean, that's a really high pick. I know that they didn't want to give him up this summer in any trade. They made that clear to Phoenix. They weren't going to give up Reed Sheppard, so they must really believe he can be that guy. That's one more question, I think, for them. But for the most part, they're loaded, man. They're loaded with size and talent and experience with some youth mixed in. They've got a little bit of everything.
I think Reed Sheppard now becomes their X factor. And I am curious, by the way, if they do anything else, this offseason, because they do have, as much as they have this great depth, there's also some guys that might not come along. If you're saying Reed Sheppard, you're going all in for, what does Cam Whitmore do this year? Is he a guy that is now in a tight spot because you have so many good players, you can't even play him, and now you're wasting a young pick. You got to get him off him early. So I'm curious to see what they do now, but their roster has the flexibility built in, and I think they won the offseason to date so far.
We all silly like the mayor.